Pedagogy is about inclusion. It's the nature of it. It's the nature of learning anyone anything is to include that person in life as a whole, in the society, in the group, in the school, in themselves. And so inclusion is just a very natural part of the praxis of pedagogy and teaching and learning and being a social worker as a whole, but also as a parent. If you are a parent or you have someone you're gonna learn something, you have to have this inclusion and including mind over you. Otherwise, you will lose that person. So it's all about including people. It's not always that inclusion is perfect or after the ideals, and it's not always an inclusion to help empower people. This is a negative side of inclusion, that you're trying to include somebody but on a slave level. Okay, I will include you, but you will basically be my slave, or you will be a very, very cheap worker nobody will pay attention to. This is a part of inclusion. I will include you to learn how to do this and that's what you're going to do the rest of your life, basically, unless you rebel or find something else. So inclusion can also have a negative side of it, but as a basic, it's an inclusion in life. This is the beautiful part of inclusion, that it is an inclusion to be part of life as a whole. And so there are three aspects of inclusion. The first one is to be focused on acceptance, to basically accept the other people, the other person, the way they look at things, their perception, and to have empathy for them, to understand their feelings and respect them. This is the first aspect of inclusion in pedagogical work. The second one is resource-focused inclusion, means you go and look for the good sides and the strong sides of this person and try to enhance it and help them enhance it themselves. This is what you want to do when you are including in your work with people who are developing, whether they are kids or grown-ups. And so you focus on their resources and what they can, and do not go looking for their mistakes and weak sides and just punching them on the head as as a losers. That everybody has something, has a potential of a kind, even those we maybe shake our heads and say they are totally hopeless. Even the hopeless have something that made them come through as humans, and they're just sitting there in front of you. So that means there's something they can do. Even those you go and find in very difficult places, maybe they have been what can you say, they've been sentenced for criminality or isolated on an island or done some very stupid behavior. They have also some resources that can be developed, and this is the idea of inclusion in pedagogy. And then there is the relation in inclusion. You are focusing on having a kind of a relation in that way you're working with these people, so you can relate to them and befriend them on in a certain way, get access to their world, so you can have this inclusion work on different levels. And to include means that you let the person participate, you share with these people who are included, and you feel a certain kind of being equal to them, or let them feel themselves equal to you. So this is what inclusion all about, and that's why I mentioned the negative side of it, because if you use inclusion not to share but to take away, that doesn't become really inclusion, that goes towards exclusion. And if you use it to put people in a certain place where they cannot develop from or use their other potentials, you are limiting that inclusion. You're saying I'm including them, but you're actually limiting that inclusion, because you're not giving them him or her the ability to use all of his or her potential. You have already judged where they should be and what they should do and what they are fit for. So if you have a group of kids and you're going to make a play or do something creative, and one kid jumps out as one who wants to do it, and you can't see that this person really is fit for it, you are actually limiting that person's ability to develop from the inside. The right way about it is to let this kid try. Let him or her get that role and see how they do it. Maybe you will be surprised and they do it very perfectly and beautifully, and maybe they fail. And by failing, you get to realize in a talk with them that is friendly and including, as they say, you get to that realization, saying and showing that kid, well, you see, you could fit to that part. It was too tough, wasn't it? the way you should do this is not that exactly. Is there something else you really like? And then this kid realizes, well, I jumped up too early to that thing. I'm not ready for it, or I'm not really resourceful enough to do exactly that, but I have resources to do something else, and that's what this person should be pointed in the direction of. So pedagogy is also a matter of being patient and in constant dialogue to develop the persons you are related to and not just judge them beforehand. How many times haven't we been surprised by people saying, I can do this, and you say, no, you, out of everybody, and they actually do it better than you think. And you become surprised how they unfold in that role because you gave them that trust and you showed them the support to try. Not always because you can't see, but because sometimes you must also let the person feel that you have given him that trust of trying, even though maybe you know beforehand he won't really succeed, she won't be able to do it because we know her limitations and her personality. She will get into trouble, but let her try, support her as far as she can go on the ladder or he can go on the ladder, and then they will find their own limits and limitations. And that's what make also people discover their resources. That's by looking at the limitations they have gone through and exceeded and known, and then they found out, well, I am where I am because one day I was going in another direction, and then I could see, and my teacher or my helper could see, well, I couldn't get further on with that, and that's where I shifted and found my true call or way of life or the real work I want to do. And many places in the world they do not have all that space for inclusion, so people just get seen as a number in the whole picture. And it's just, well, we need 1,000 people to do this, let them learn that, and that's it. And that person will have to break free from those 1,000 or maybe million persons who are doing the same thing. It's like when you call people out to war and soldiers, and we are in times where this can be imminent again, where nations are building up for war in 2025. God knows how long time we are before we are there again. So you get million soldiers out there, and they just, well, the same package, the same training, the same thing, but they distinguish themselves by their personality and what they have with them because of that inclusion they have had from early life and the trust that has been put in their own personalities. And sometimes they surprise you, or somebody will stick out as surprising, different than others. And everyone can be surprising. It's not limited, but people limit themselves sometimes, and depending on how they have been treated or their narration of life, as I've been speaking on earlier. But so the inclusion is basically to have the ability to be part of something without being looked at as person who are not able, or maybe because of your background, how your looks and so on. If you exclude, it must be on basis that the other person also can recognize. Like when you exclude someone from stafette of running because the person is a handicap, cannot run, but then you can include them in another kind of handicap, wheelchair running, because they can actually push the wheelchair with their hands, and so on and so on. Inclusion can have different forms and different ways of being. Yeah, that was a little bit about inclusion. And so how to work with inclusion if it's not working. How to explain that? If you are in a situation where inclusion isn't really working, it can be you are in a class and you have a group of people around you on a trip. You are the coach on a kind of scout camp, whatever you are in, and people have difficulty getting along and including, and then you are notified, or the group of coaches are notified, well, there are these two boys who really doesn't fit in, they go by themselves, they do things we don't like, and so on and so on. Or this girl just wanders alone and she seems sad and not really relating to anyone where she is. And so you have some worries about this. And this model I'm showing here, it's called the flower model, or the four-sided mill, is like a way to work yourself through how to get along with that by the help of the people involved. It's not just you sitting in your room and figuring out a plan how to include that girl. You need the others to include her. You need the other people who are out there in the social reality to get these two kids back to the group and let them stop doing what they're doing. And so, one of the ways to do this is to go through this with the people involved. So, take the class or the group in the scout, the group or the people on the trip, and have a talk. It can be, of course, divided into minor groups if it is necessarily. That's up to you and up to the people working with it. But you start talking, first of all, of the worries. What is it that is worrying us? Well, we have a worry that there is one person here who is totally alone and she's sad, she has no one to relate to. And you have a talk about that. There are two kids who do not adhere to the rules and so, doing things they shouldn't be. And so people are not friendly, they are talking behind their backs, and there is negativity around it. So this is the thing that is worrying us. And then you go on and talk about what we wish and hope. How would this situation be if we were in an ideal situation? Well, that girl wouldn't be sad and somebody would be talking to her, taking her along. These two boys would have got some other things to do so they do not disturb and make trouble and destroy things and not wander on their own. So this is what we wanna achieve. How do we do that? And there is the point three, the ideas, the possibilities. What ideas and possibilities are there to achieve this? And how can anyone help with this? And then people will have told you already, well, it's her own fault because every time somebody talks to her, she does not want. And these two boys, well, they have been like this since the beginning and they are just here to make trouble. So this is their motive and nobody can do anything about. You will hear a lot of these kind of excuses for why it's not possible. But that should not deter you from trying to find the ideas together with those you're working with and the people that's involved to find ideas. Okay, she don't know how to talk to anyone. Let's look at this from a different angle. What is it she really wants? Does anybody know that? And so we go from that angle. Or a third one, trying to make things go better, or maybe find a way to remove her so she can go to a place where she likes, or maybe let her be on their own, followed by someone so she can go and have that thing that she wanted and then get back. The same with the two kids. Maybe they had the needs to go out exploring the surroundings and nobody's letting them. And so maybe their goal is actually very positive, but because they have these limitations and they are in conflict with the limitations, they go on and make trouble and do things they shouldn't have done. So why not let them go out and explore? Actually, why shouldn't we all go out and explore the area so we really get to know where we are in this scout camp or whatever place we are in? And so that way we try to find solutions and ideas into that story. Sometimes can be difficult. It's not always easy. And sometimes the solutions are just right there in front of us, most of the times actually. But we have not thought them through and we just think things are as they are. She's no good, she's excluded, these two are bad, let's send them home, and life goes on. But that's exclusion. So when you want to include, you want to really put an effort into trying to find ideas and possibilities to make things work. The last one is to follow up. Start the implementation of an idea or two and look for the signals. What is it we're going to achieve? Well, the inclusion of that girl, inclusion of these two boys in a good way. And so you go and look for the signals. And so maybe an hour later, you see this girl more cheerful, talking to two others, and those two boys are happy back from the exploration, showing you the map of the place because they have been out there and finding something very, very special. And so you see the signals of things going the right way, or you maybe find the signals not so good. You can see the girl is still sulking and sad and not really relating. The boys are still making trouble. What do? We find a way to implement again, try new ideas, or see why that idea did not go through. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe the persons who went to implement it didn't do it the right way. So we have to have this reflection room alongside our goals and targets. And so finally, hopefully, we get into the fifth and center place, to the nectar of it all. We get to the target we want, and that is the inclusion of everyone you have with you and can relate to. Yeah, that was a little bit about inclusion in the work in pedagogy and basically in life as well. Thank you and have a good day.